Man, long story short, the multiplayer in Halo 4 was complete ass. The Halo series has always had a very distinctive and classic multiplayer. It was a balanced arena shooter that rewarded map knowledge and positioning. Each person spawned in with the same exact loadout, meaning that at the start of a game, everybody was at a level playing field. What separated players who would find success in a match and those who didn't was how much the player knew about the map they were on. That's really what Halo was about. You had to hit your shots, but you really had to know the game well if you wanted to do well, because if you didn't, you would get punished hard. There was no sprint to bail you out. If you got out of position or out in the open, that was your ass. People loved this gameplay. All the old heads know Halo multiplayer was where it was at back in the day. Now Halo 4, well not even now, but when Halo 4 released, they made an egregious, irresponsible error with their implementation of the multiplayer. Their entire design was wrong, causing the game to die and their reputation with it. Halo 4's multiplayer was ass. There is no other way to put it. It was generic, unbalanced, trend chasing experience that lacked the most important part of the game, which is fun. They tried too hard to implement a loadout based system, which ruined one of the most important and fundamental parts of a multiplayer, which is balance. With this new loadout system, they introduced a plethora of primary weapon choices, secondary weapon choices, and grenade options. Don't forget that sprint was now baseline and the armor abilities from Reach were back. The entire balance that had carefully existed within Halo for so long had just been thrown completely out of whack. First off, the weapons were horribly unbalanced. The DMR was outright broken. The DMR in Halo 4's multiplayer was a fucking 3-shot to rip your shields, which was insane. The only reason DMR worked in Halo Reach was because of weapon bloom. The faster you fired your weapon, the more inaccurate your shots became. This forced players to basically be more patient with their shots and added an extra dimension of skill to the multiplayer. Now hear me out. I know a lot of people hated weapon bloom, but I did not believe it was all that bad. It was inconsistent if you spammed it, but if you slowed down your shots and timed them just right, you could kill just about anybody. Now in Halo 4, they reduced the severity of the bloom, allowing for it to be spammable and remain accurate, which was a deadly combination. Couple that with its incredibly long range, and it was just outright broken. I remember dudes was always choosing the map complex and would get on top of one of the structures where they could just overlook the entire map and just 3-shot you instantly from anywhere. Like as soon as you would spawn in, you would die. There was nothing you can do. It was horrible. Because the balance was so bad, the multiplayer was plagued with people just gravitating towards the same maps that favored the meta over and over again. Going back to the weapon balance, getting into a 1v1 with somebody who had a DMR was impossible when you had something like the battle rifle. The battle rifle was a 5-shot to get shields down, and the DMR was 3. The DMR had a faster rate of fire, so you could just do the math. And don't even get me started on secondaries. The DMR play was just so disgustingly easy to kill with that it didn't even feel fun and got old quick. Now let's talk about sprint for a second. The problem with sprint is that it gave people the ability to run away from an engagement, which is never fun. If they found themselves in a bad position or they overextended, they could just sprint away, resetting the engagement. One of the most important tenets of Halo was positioning. If you got yourself out of position, then you would die. This forced people to be smart about their positioning and where they chose to engage. If you look at Halo Reach's sprint, it was a bit different. It was a selectable armor ability, meaning that if they chose sprint, they would lose out on the other choices like armor lock or evade. This meant that there were trade-offs for picking up sprint. In Halo 4, you inherently had the ability to sprint, meaning that it was baseline, in addition to whatever other armor abilities you wanted to pick. You can't really reinvent the wheel sometimes when it comes to multiplayer. It's almost like chess or like football or any other sport that's been or any other game that's been well established. People expect a certain thing from a game. When you play football, what is it? It's 11 on 11, and there's certain rules. And when you play football, you kind of know what you're going to get. Same thing in basketball, 5 on 5. There might be different metas. There might be different way the game is going to be played in different eras, but for the most part it's the same game. When you try to fundamentally change the way the game is played, people are not going to respond well to that, especially when it's not done decently, right? Like, they did not make the game better with their changes, they just made it worse. And it was just always odd to me why they decided to go that way, because so many people, Halo 4 was not Halo 4, but just Halo multiplayer in general was one of the most popular multiplayers in the world at one point. So many people loved and played that game, and they changed it so much. That was not Halo multiplayer at all anymore, and that off-put a lot of people. Even if it was pretty good, they came in with the expectation of Halo multiplayer and they were let down. And that's a big thing that they had to consider, is that you decide to go down that path by trying to change, and they changed everything about it, then you're gonna upset a lot of people. And I think they guessed wrong. The biggest takeaway from Halo 4's multiplayer, like I said, it's by far the weakest part of the game. It really drags the game down, because multiplayer has always been one of the most important parts of modern video games, right? You can have a great campaign, but that's not what's going to keep people playing 3 years down the line. It's going to be that multiplayer. So if you don't do well on both, that game just cannot be considered good. So the multiplayer was by far the weakest, in my opinion, part of the game, the weakest package. I didn't give a grade on the first one, but I give a grade on this one. I mean, if it was ass. Like, a scale of like good or like amazing, like I'll slap my own mama to play this game again, that's like the number, that's like amazing, like that's like the best you can do. Then you got great, then you got good, then you got okay, like, and then ass is like about as bad as you can get. It was like right on ass. Like, it was like huge ass, like super ass, man. Your mama's ass. Like, it was massive. It was just huge. I don't know what to tell him, but that shit was bad. So it was not good. Was it good though? No, it wasn't. It was ass.